Australia has been rather quiet since the global financial crisis. Their activities have been overshadowed by countries such as the US and China, even within the nation itself. Sometimes it's hard to see the forest from the trees, they say. Well, it's important to understand the unbelievable debt load that Australians are experiencing today and how that will play out in the near future. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Hello to all my friends in Australia. Every day I get contacted by Australians. Please do some videos on Australia, for God's sakes. Well, here you go, and let's get into it right away. World's biggest property addicts. This is a relatively new article out of Bloomberg. I'm going to show you some of the article as well as the charts from it. It gets into some good details. I'm going to show you some statistics that you need to see and you need to consistently monitor. I'm going to give you the sources of that. I'm going to tell you where to look. Let's get into this right away. Australia is riding out a huge gamble on property. The bet, 27 years of recession-free economic growth, during which Sydney home prices surge five-fold, would continue unabated and allow borrowers to keep servicing their debt. Talk to anyone in the industry and you will find the prices never ever go down. Well, think about this, 27 years. So the average person working in that career has literally never seen prices go down. So why would they think that prices are going down? I mean, they have no idea about the central bank. They have no idea about currencies. All they know is the experience they've had. And surely we have a lot of experience here. 27 years, prices simply keep going up. It's the same thing in Canada. I see it every day. You talk to the real estate agents or realtors. You talk to the mortgage brokers. You talk to people in the financial industry, whether that is, somebody working at the bank or whatever. These people have never seen a downturn in their career, so surely they are going to recommend it and take as much debt as you possibly can, because those people 10 years ago, 20 years ago, they're laughing now because of all the quote-unquote money that they've made. The gamble has turned dicey. Tighter lending rules are deterring investors, and lofty prices are starting to deflate. A banking probe is exposing dodgy practices, and a mountain of risky loans that help fuel the bubble needs refinancing just as the global borrowing costs rise. Now, Australians are stuck with the highest household debt among G20 nations. So I'm going to show you that right here. Australia's household debt exceeds 120% of GDP, and you can see that with the red line where it has gone. Australia through the roof. Now, for myself in Canada, we're not too far behind. Yes, congratulations, Canada. You're number 2. All right. What I see with this is that, yes, in relation to the GDP, it's very high. Whether it is at 120, whether it's at 100, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter. What we have is a state of unbelievable levels of debt. People are in debt. Corporations are in debt. Nations, cities, states, provinces, regions, debt. More debt. More debt. Since the financial crisis, everything has been exacerbated. Everything has been made worse, and it will not let up anytime soon. And the root cause of that is never discussed. We'll get into that more in a moment. Australian banks' mortgages are equivalent to 80% of the economy. Look at this. Insane. The amount of debt that people have taken. Yes, I understand. There's something real behind it. There's a real asset there. But wait a minute. You live in the house and you pay every single month to make sure that that house stays up and running. You got your taxes, you got your energy, your utilities of the house. You've got to constantly maintain it. You got to cut the grass, you got to trim this and that. You have to plant the flowers, you have to do the landscaping, you have to shovel the driveway, you have to do this and that. There's so much maintenance involved. Houses that do not bring in passive income are not, I repeat, not an investment. A lot of people don't like to hear that, and I've got a lot of criticism from people, but you can talk to Robert Kiyosaki if you have any arguments. Since the turn of the century, politicians down under have sold the Australian dream by encouraging locals to take out mortgages and secure stakes in the property market, traditionally seen as an easy path to wealth. I explained that in the introduction. When growth stumbled during the global financial crisis, the government started handing out checks to help buyers scrounge up deposits, bolstering the economy in the process. This is what all governments do. They create stimulus packages. Now, I agree with the stimulus packages over quantitative easing, but why not fix the problem in the first place? Should I get into it now? No, let me continue on for just a moment. So it's talking about China here, and I will discuss China more in a second as well. A lot to cover here for you. So much to look at. How investors' repayments could almost double. This is massive. This is the reason why we will see a collapse in housing. Ultimately, interest rates are rising. I'm going to show you what interest rates are now. But we have a big problem in Australia, and that is investors took out very, very large mortgages which are only able to be paid back if interest rates remain low. So you'll say, well, they'll just remain low. Well, you need to get into the mentality of a central banker. You can't be thinking like an average individual. We have to think like a central banker. And what do central bankers operate on the level of different countries? Do you think Australia's central bank cares about the people of Australia? Do you think the Fed cares about the actual people, American citizens? Of course not. They operate without borders. The Federal Reserve bailed out companies all across the world. And when they were asked to tell, who did you give the money to? Tell us. The reply from Ben Bernanke was no. No. They wouldn't even let people know. Of course, the audit came out. We found out that they were giving money to literally places all over the world. I know specifically that I looked through the list. I believe it was UPS who published the list. And you just look through it. And it was a spreadsheet. I can't remember. I think it was UBS anyway. So they printed out the spreadsheet. Bloomberg had it. That's right. Freedom of Information Act request. They got that info through them. But I know I did a video about it. Anyway, I'm ranting. So basically, we found out Canadian banks were on that list. I looked at them all. All the major lenders were there. Okay? That's what's going to become an issue for today, that the central banks have engaged in these policies, bringing the interest rates down all the way to the bottom. If they rise, suddenly people owe way too much money. So let's just say that, you know, in this example here, they're trying to say how much the average person's payments are going to be, how much they'll increase to, and look how we can go from just, you know, a reasonable amount where yes, people are able to afford it. If you got $1 million mortgage and suddenly interest rates you were paying go from 3-4% to 5-6%, suddenly a lot of people cannot afford that anymore. I hope you understand. It's simple mathematics. This is not a prediction. This is mathematics. Higher rates, just a question of time. And that's, I'm not going to get into the details of it, but they're basically predicting, yes, of course, Australia's central bank is going to have to increase interest rates. The Bank of Canada just did it. The Fed did it this year as well. There are places around the world where interest rates are negative, and that's a very, very silly policy, very reckless. Banks are handing less money to investors. So I would say that this could be seen as, you know, the major lenders giving out the investments. I know specifically in Canada, what they do is that they have to basically the big lenders say, no, you're not going to pass the test. You can't be trusted with the money. So they don't just not lend. They don't rent a house. They just go to alternative mortgage lenders. The alternative mortgage lenders will definitely give them money. This is the curbs placed on interest-only loans right at the peak there, 2017. As you can see it there, I would say that, you know, quite interesting what happened, which is a lot different than other central banks. And I'd like to get you to hold on for just a moment. We're talking about interest rates there, but The rise and fall of Australia's risky mortgages, interest-only loans as a portion of total bank loans, dropped dramatically throughout, I would say, 2017, 2018. So that's really become a problem for Australia. The prices cannot be sustained if you're not giving out those risky loans. Don't go anywhere. Make sure you watch part 2 of this video, my friends. In Australia, there's so much missing information, so much incorrect information that you are receiving, and I believe that this video will help you out. The second part is going to get into where you got to go specifically to get good details, good info. So make sure you click on the link in the description. See you there.